Talk about it with Franjez. Today's special guest is a keynote speaker, a podcast host, and the founder of ARV Enterprises. Today's guest is Adam Vohra. Adam, thank you very much for coming through. How you doing today?
Thank you, man. This is awesome. You know, it's a great setup. You got this one-man show going here, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. I'm honored to have you here. Tell us about your commute here. How was it?
It wasn't that bad. I thought it'd be worse. I mean, I live in Fairfield, Connecticut, so I anticipated it being a lot worse than it was, but it was actually pretty smooth. So
perfect.
Yeah, that's why I picked that early time. It's a great way to start the morning, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start straight from the beginning. Where were you born?
So I was actually born in Bombay, India, and it's funny because me and my sister are adopted, but I was born in Bombay, India, and adopted at a very young age by my dad and my mom, and there's kind of a story behind it. I can get into it.
Absolutely.
So when I was born when, on May 13th, 1986, right? And when I was born, I was very sick, and I was rejecting medicine, and the doctors didn't really know what to do. Obviously, medical practices in India weren't as up to speed as they were here in the States. And at the time, my parents were looking to adopt their second child, and they visited the hospital. They were working with an agency, and the hospital brought them to me. So I'm super underweight. I might have been premature. Don't really have any knowledge about my actual birth parents, but when my parents, and actually this was only my dad, when my dad came with his brother and they found me, I've been told that he instantly fell in love with me, and he made a commitment to do whatever he can to save me. So he would end up flying back to the United States, getting whatever medicine that I needed, flying back and treating me. So they get the medicine, they treat me. It's about a 4 or 5 month recovery. And August-ish, I'm finally cleared to leave the hospital and fly back to the United States and get naturalized and everything. And that was the first time I would meet my mom, because my mom at the time, they had a 14-month-old with my sister. You know, my sister was adopted a year earlier. So it's just kind of a very unique story because my parents saved my life when they went to adopt me. And it's something that me and my sister actually learned way later on in life. We didn't know about this we didn't know we were adopted until we were 12 or 13, when we found out on our own. And I didn't really learn the actual story until fairly recently, within the past couple of years, when I chose to really dig into what that period of time was like for my parents and what the actual process was when it came to adopting me and my sister. So that's funny because I never really shared that like full story, not even on my podcast, frankly. But you know, that's where I was born, and that's the story of me, meeting my family and growing with my family. That's where it all started.
Your parents are Indian?
My dad's Indian and my mom is Persian-Jewish.
Okay.
So we came here. My mom's side of the family is all here. My dad's side of the family, he's the only one from India who came to this country. He came on an education visa, ended up going to Temple University, ended up getting his PhD over there. He would meet my mom.
Brief interruption by the police. They needed me to move my car, but we're back at it. Where were we?
So I was talking about where my family's from, and so my dad's Indian, obviously.
Yep.
His entire family
is still
back home. He was the only one who immigrated here, and my mother, she is Persian-Jewish. Her entire family came here. They came here in the 70s during the uprising of the Shah, and I mean, they're Jewish. Jews weren't very welcome, to say the least, when they were there. And it's kind of crazy because when they came to this country, my grandfather and he had a team. They owned a bunch of hospitals in Iran. And once that political uprising happened, Jews weren't really allowed to own businesses of that caliber. So he was pushed out of his business. From what I understand, he had to run. And so he left the country, and there was a period of time when my grandfather was trying to secure passage to the United States that my mom, her sisters, didn't really know where he was. And he would end up settling in the Philadelphia area and then calling for all of them, and they would join him. So they all came here, all spoke Farsi, and settled in the Philly area. So most of my mother's side of the family is based in Philadelphia. I have some Persian family in LA, because I think every Persian family has some Persian family in LA. And that's kind of how my family was laid out, frankly, because it's a crazy immigrant journey, because a lot of them would go on to go to Ivy League schools and build businesses and work in education and work in research and do pretty big things. But it wasn't easy, certainly in the beginning. And, I could appreciate it more than I ever really did, because I'm asking the right questions that I never asked, growing up, trying to hear the stories that shape them, who they are, and, my family lineage.
Absolutely. So at 13, how does that happen when you and your sister find out?
That's crazy. Yeah. So, it's funny because we went to Jewish day school. We moved around early on while my dad was kind of establishing himself in his career. And we ended up settling in Danbury, Connecticut. And he worked for IBM. He ended up working for IBM for like 40 years. And really kind of random. My dad had some colleagues from college, I guess, and they were pretty close, and our families would hang out. And it was one of their daughters that actually told my sister that we were adopted, and we didn't, think anything of it. My sister didn't think
your father's friend's daughter?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy, and you think they're full of shit, and my sister, she told my sister. I think my sister internalized it right away and got curious, and she told me, and it was that age where you're like, you brush off your sister. So it's kind of like, whatever, Amber, and I didn't really take it seriously, and I don't even think I processed it at all. And she did some snooping, and she found adoption papers. And when that happened, I think she held on to it for a little bit, and then finally she showed me. And I was like, okay.
How old is she? She's
14 months older than me.
Okay.
Yes. So, she's 40 and I'm 39. And, I'm trying to relive that moment when, we actually confronted them, because I ended up confronting them. We were driving back from the beach. I remember the date. It was August 26, 1998.
Woo!
And we were driving back from the beach. It was like back to school. It was one of the last beach days of the summer. And we were just fighting. Me and my sister were fighting. My mom was trying to settle us down. I remember I was sitting in the front seat, and it was like a beautiful day. And, I just blurted it out. And I was like, Mom, we're adopted. And you could hear the silence in the car. It was crazy. Because they probably thought about this day coming and had all sorts of scenarios of how they would play out, like we all do when it comes to big moments that we anticipate happening. And we just dropped a bomb. And we sit in silence. We get to the house. The rest of the car ride was silence. And they were just like, all right, let's have a conversation. When you guys go upstairs, clean up, come back down. And, obviously they want to, if now that I'm an adult, they want to get their ducks in order. What are we going to say? What are we going to do? Adam just dropped this bomb. How are we going to react? And I don't really know what they agreed upon, but the agreed upon strategy that they chose, frankly, what probably wasn't the best one when you look at the results that happened afterwards with more me than my sister. And, basically they told us that we didn't want people to look at you guys differently. And I get where they're coming from now. But all that made me do is look at myself differently. But, subconsciously, it made me, I already felt different, man. Like, I went to Jewish day school from kindergarten to 5th grade. I was the only brown kid there. Not that it's like a race thing so much, but I stuck out and I felt different for much of my childhood and for much of, frankly, my adult life. And then it was reinforced at the age 13 when we found something that made us different. And rather than lean into it and being told to embrace it and this is who you are and you need to love it, which is probably the approach that I would have taken, we were just kind of reaffirmed that we would be looked differently. So we both went different paths where I kept it a secret for a very long time because I didn't want to be looked at differently. My sister told her friends and was a little more outward about it, but there were scars that were left on her as well from this revelation and the way that it was handled. And there was a long time that I was very resentful and angry and wanted validation. And I say this a lot that I made decisions, I don't want to say directly related to that, but I think it did play a role because I was waiting for an apology that I would never really officially get. And I think oftentimes people do that, man, where they harbor this resentment, they hold on to it for a very long time. And, sometimes that apology never comes in the way that you want it to be.
Especially from parents.
And, just fast forward to when I finally decided to get sober, 3 years ago. And I'm going through this process where I need to let go of this backpack of bricks that's on my back because it's weighing me down, it's slowing me down, it's not allowing me to grow. And one of those bricks was that big resentment that I had with my dad. And in so many different conversations, I would come at him like, why did you do this? Why haven't you apologized? Why can't you accept responsibility? But I understood now that was not how to approach my father. And instead, and I think this is useful for anybody when they have a long festering resentment, I just asked him what he went through. Because if I could understand the process that he went through, then I could understand the choices that he made afterwards. And it was the first real vulnerable conversation I think I've ever had with my father. And he just said, that was the darkest period in me and your mother's marriage. We had been trying to have children for a very long time. They come from these traditional cultures. Persian, traditional, Jewish, Indian. My dad wasn't really fully accepted by my mother's family because he wasn't Jewish early on, so he kind of had to earn their trust. Now they're having trouble bearing children. And he said it was a really, really dark period. And then he said that we wanted you guys so bad. And we never looked at you as anything differently than our own children. And while there were opportunities to tell you, anytime that we had to tell you, we had to revisit that dark period in our lives. And I could relate to that. I could understand that. I could wrap my head around that. And I wish they had said that in that moment in the kitchen in 1996. They didn't. But now me and my dad's relationship is great. We are more open. I think having that vulnerable moment gave him the validation, gave him the peace of mind knowing that he can be like that. Like I'm 39 years old, man. Like, we're adults now. We need to have an adult relationship in order for us to really grow, and because we have squandered a lot of time not watering our relationship. So it was a cool moment. It was a really, really cool moment. But it also I wouldn't have been able to have that moment if I didn't change the way that I thought, if I didn't understand and accept that I may not get what I want out of this. And when I started that conversation, I very well mentally prepared myself for, I might not get the outcome that I want. I might hear something that I don't like. I might walk away with this without closure, and I need to be okay with that. And when I came into it with that kind of open mind, it ended up being like a super powerful moment for me personally, both on my growth journey, my recovery journey, and my relationship with my father.
What was the what did you get sober from?
Alcohol. I did a little bunch of blow, but like alcohol, yeah.
Alcohol.
Yeah, I like to drink.
Still?
No. I mean, so you give me a drink, I probably do, yeah. But yeah, I like to drink. So yeah, drinking was my Achilles heel.
Do your parents drink?
Not really.
Okay.
It's funny, they don't. My mom never really drank. She'd have a glass. She was one of those people who'd have a glass of wine and not finish it. And my ass would be sitting there like, what are you doing? Like sitting across the like, yeah, And my dad, he'll have some wine. He'll, I went to his apartment a few weeks ago. He had a case of Sam Adams, but there's like 2 out, and I think he hosts some of like the neighbors in his apartment building, but nothing crazy.
And the apology you wanted, what type of apology were you looking for? Because it's like, how would you handle it as a parent with adopted kids? When would you tell them? That's what the apology you were looking for? Like, why didn't you tell me sooner?
It's funny because my mom would pass away in 2013. My mom passed away in 2013, and so I was there the day that she had a tracheotomy, right? So I heard her last words, and I remember that day, me and her were sitting in the hospital room, and she knew that she probably wouldn't be able to speak ever again. And she's holding my hand, and she goes, I love you and your sister more than anything. You guys are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm sorry for any pain that I ever caused. And I know exactly what she was talking about. We both did, and I just looked at her and I was like, I love you. I forgive you. I that's it. Don't worry. And I got that closure from my mom, where it was kind of her taking ownership and acknowledging that they could have played it differently. For my dad, those years when I came at him, he came at me with, you should be grateful. You should, you have such a blessed life. And he's right. He's right. But it's because with a man like my father, you don't come at him like that. You just don't. And I get that now. He has an ego. I have an ego. We're very similar if you really think about it. And I feel like I would have been the same way if the tables were turned and because it's like, hey, like, I worked my ass off for 40 years. I came from nothing in India, but I came from India, came here, built.
The cops are knocking again. Hold on.
Damn. We are Yonkers. Franjez. Talk about it with Franjez. It's one of the deepest conversations I've probably had in a very long time. I do a quick testimonial. Grateful to be here. Franjez invited me, and I just love the content that he's putting out. I think he's great, and I'm really excited to continue this conversation because I came into this really thinking like I'm just going to leave it all on the floor, man, and be an open book and just kind of let God take over this conversation. And that's really what's important to me because I want to have a big 2026. Obviously, I want Franjez to be a part of it. And it starts with having these conversations that hopefully someone hears this, reaches out to me, and we can have a conversation and help them grow and get over whatever resentment they may have been harboring for a long time. So this is amazing to be here and have this conversation with Franjez. And he's going to see the shit in editing, and he's going to be like, damn, Adam just did a testimonial, but fucking sick.
They're doing construction outside, and the cop keeps needing for me to move my car. It's really stupidity. They don't need me to move my car. They can do what they got to do. My car was not even in the way. But let's get back to it.
So we were talking about my mom and like kind of getting that closure and how I couldn't get that, how like if I pushed my dad's buttons, if I did approach that the same way. So I guess when you ask me like what apology was I really thinking about, I wanted to get closure in my way. And I think it's more often than not when people do that, it needs to be exactly how you want it in order for you to get the closure that you want. And we wait for these moments. And why not just put yourself in the other person's shoes and meet them where they are? And I try to do that, you know, more and more when it comes to just anything that, you know, I'm resentful over, or if I sense a resentment festering, just like what's it with me? Why is this bothering me so much? You know?
Yeah. Nice. All right, so let's get back to the childhood. Before 13, what type of kid were you? What were you into?
Bro, I was kind of like a nerdy, like stereotypical Indian dude. You know, I got good grades. Like my parents were somewhat strict growing up. You know, I went to a Jewish day school from K through 5. You know, anything less than a B plus was utter failure in my opinion.
Utter failure.
It's true, bro. It's crazy. Would go on to middle school. You know, same thing. Just kind of, you know, put my head down. Socially, you know, I had a group of friends, but it's funny because I went through friends in phases. I had like a good friend, you know, when I was at Maimonides, and then I went to middle school, made some new friends, kind of stuck in like a small clique, and you know, we grew, you know, through middle school. But it really, frankly, when the major turning point really was finding out when I was adopted, because you know, I always like to talk about turning points, and that was a major turning point because that's where the trajectory of what I needed out of just validation wise, the quest for just attention, you know, that really changed. And you know, I think I started playing sports towards the end of middle school, 8th grade. I started playing Pop Warner football, and that's when you meet a different group of people and do different type of kids, and you know, they're athletes and whatnot, and you know, I used to kick it with them, and a lot of them were older than me, because that was back when Pop Warner did it by weight, and if you were like a fucking sophomore, you could be like 100. If you're 125 sophomore, you could be on the junior midgets to play with 8th graders. You know, so like our quarterback was Mike Azzarito. Shout out to Mike Azzarito. Mike Azzarito was our quarterback. He was like a sophomore. He weighed 130 pounds, and he was nasty. Running back, same thing. Jesse Jaramillo. Shout out to Jesse Jaramillo. No, it was crazy. Those two guys were studs on our junior midget team. The rest of us are in 8th grade, and we're just rolling over people in the Candlewood Valley, man. And that was like those were probably two of the funnest years of my life, man. Even though I didn't suck, but I wasn't great. You know what I mean? Like you ask any of my friends, I'm the least athletic out of all of them. You know, and I've accepted that, guys. But it was so much fun because I think it was the first time that I working on a team, a collective goal, and just like the camaraderie that, you know, people you get from other just men's communities. I think that's like being on a team is that first experience for any man or woman, obviously. You know, sports, that's what it does, you know? And definitely. For me, but it also exposed me to like that jock lifestyle, you know what I mean, where it's like, granted it's 8th grade, like, but it's like that's when I had my first drink in 8th grade.
Really?
It was at Joe Lionetti's house, and I remember, sorry Joe, but
you just shouted him out.
Whatever, we're 40 now, dude. I remember he had this house over by the lake, and he just throw these bangers, him and his brother, and it was the first time I ever drank. I remember the cops got called. I remember I was running down the street, like I don't even remember, but it was the first time I ever got drunk, and we were drinking 40s.
40s.
We're drinking 40s.
Man.
They just had a bunch of 40s everywhere. And it's just like a bunch of white kids drinking 40s. That's what it was. It was a bunch of white kids drinking 40s in this like private lake community. Dude, it was crazy, bro. But like that was the first time I drank. And then that's opened up Pandora's box for me, bro.
I was about to ask, what was that feeling like? You loved it?
You know, I think for so long, and you could ask anybody who's an addict or an alcoholic, that moment is when you feel like I have arrived in a sense. And the reason why I say that is because it allows you not to have to feel. So I think after, finding out that we're adopted, not knowing what to do with that, it's just kind of like this mess. You don't know how to fucking clean it up. You want to silence how you actually feel. And when I discovered alcohol, there was like, ta-da. And I ran with it. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to face what I needed to unpack in regards to it. I was very angry, I think, also. And drinking helped that. And it eventually became the solution for a lot of my problems. And I think that's when you can kind of clearly define whether you have a problem. When this substance is not only the solution to all your problems, but also the ways that you celebrate, the way that you mourn, the way that you get over a fear, the way that you go on a date, the way that you have to do anything. If alcohol and drugs are the thing that make it easier, then you might have a problem.
Absolutely. It helps you not think of the future.
Well,
alcohol puts you in the moment.
Yeah.
And it blurs the future, so you don't stress about it. Your anxiety is calmer when you're drinking.
Yeah. Well, that, and also it just becomes that best friend that you lean on. And that's dangerous when you find yourself and the first thing that you need to do is have a drink in order to be able to face something hard.
So high school, you're still drinking, right?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Like I remember freshman year, bro. And this is when I started to get in trouble. And I remember freshman year, like, I don't know if there was this organization, it was called DECA. They did a fashion show. It was like for marketing. And I got so drunk before that thing, this fashion show. And I remember getting caught and getting pulled into the principal's office. And, the teachers liked me. I was good. I didn't really get I wasn't crazy. I didn't make noise. And they knew I was a good kid. So a lot of them really, really had my back. And I remember Mr. Greer, he was the man. He was our gym teacher. And I'm messed up. And he's also a paramedic. He does EMT work at the, at night. And
he deals with drunks.
Yeah. And, super drunk. And I'm like, ask Greer. He'll tell you. He's an EMT. And he came in and he actually vouched for me. He was like, yeah, it could be mouthwash. And then, I probably should have got expelled, but I ended up getting suspended for 5 days. And it was crazy, but I knew it was because he saw the good in me. And, was, I don't want to say a cool moment, but the fact that there were still people rooting for me, was pretty cool. But, as you continue to do the things that I was doing, trouble kind of ends up compounding. If you start getting in trouble when you're young and you continue to make the same types of choices as you grow, the type of trouble grows too. And that happened to me, man. Kept making the same choices. And somehow, I was getting suspended for 10 days at a pop, all through high school, but those days were just opportunities for me to meet up with whoever and, go on blunt rides and drink in someone's house or go to the diner and you know what I mean? And dine and ditch and do all these crazy ass things, bro. That's what we would go to this diner and just dine and ditch. And we what were we doing? It was for the thrill. We were chasing thrills. And it's funny because when I grew up, I'd end up working in the restaurant industry.
No way.
I would end up, and it's dude, what was I thinking? But it just shows that it was just all about that instant gratification during that period of time. I would graduate from high school, and I remember having to beg the attendance clerk at senior year to be listen, just make that last 3 excused absence, and then I can get my diploma, please. And she was super nice about it. She probably just didn't want to see me next year, or see me so she so I end up graduating. I ended up getting into a good school. I went to UMass Amherst, but wherever you are, there you are. and I still hadn't faced the demon of the working through the whole adoption resentment. During this period of time, you know, like I ended up losing like a best friend to cancer in sophomore year. That's something I never ever dealt with, and you know, like anything I would drink over, you know, and you know, but I ended up going to UMass Amherst, bro, and that was the first time for me to like ever be on my own, you know, and you know, I remember the semester before I went, I got diagnosed with ADD, and I got this prescription for Ritalin. It's like, it was the worst thing that could ever happen to me.
How did that happen, though? Your parents wanted to get you checked out?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think when they saw, like, you know, I was a straight A student all the way up into like middle school, and then, you know, high school, it was like, you know, touch and go here, you know, and so I think they were looking for answers as to why, when really it was because I was hanging out with the wrong people. I was drinking. I was smoking weed. I was not caring. I wasn't prioritizing what, you know, I should be. I was caring more about being popular. I was caring more about getting attention than I was about just like doing the work, which is wild that they would say, okay, let's put you at a school about 150 miles away with, you know, 30,000 other people and opportunity to party harder. And obviously I took full advantage of that. I went there. I think I stayed there for like 2 years. I would end up leaving.
Let's get to the Ritalin. Did you like it? Did it help you?
Oh yeah, I loved it. But you know, then I was like, oh, I like stimulants, and they allowed me to drink more. You know, I'd go through like a 30-day script or a 3-month script in like 30 days, and it was terrible. But you know, I think a lot of kids do that, and you know, I understand that. And
what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid, before college?
That's such a good question. I wanted to be an architect. I don't know why. I wanted to be an architect. I liked buildings. But the second I saw what type of classes engineers had to go to, I was like, I gotta switch this up. I was like, I'm terrible with math. I was like, that's not gonna happen. But that's so funny. Yeah, I wanted to be an architect, but I ended up, I don't know. I think I majored in communications, and then I ended up switching my major to hospitality and tourism management, because that also was a passion. I've always been a people person. I always loved the grandeur of like hotels and cruise ships and travel. So, you know, I ended up going for hospitality and tourism management, and so it's funny because, but like that got like backtrack. I mean, the only result of the hospitality and tourism management was just working in restaurants for 15 years after that, you know? So like, don't go to school for hospitality and tourism management if you're just going to work in a restaurant, guys. You don't need it.
What job did you want to get though when you went to school for that? You didn't want to just be in a restaurant.
I wanted to like manage like a 5-star hotel. Okay. You know, I wanted to manage a cruise ship or you know, eventually like open my own hotel, something along those lines. You know, that was something that appealed to me. You know, then when I jumped into the restaurant industry, I fell in love with that because I don't know, I've always been, you know, ready to talk to people and people's people. Yeah. And the restaurant industry also allowed me to do what I'd love to do also, which was drink and party harder. I'm serious. Like, it's crazy, but it's true. You know, if you're an active alcoholic, you know, go work in a restaurant industry. You'll drink yourself to death. You'll make some good money, and you won't have time for anything else other than working and drinking. And I did that for like 15 years.
Wow.
You know, like it was crazy, you know, because, you know, at that point, like, you know, also like trouble was brewing, you know, like, you know, I talk a lot about it from, you know, like, you know, it's funny a little bit, but, you know, like I was also like getting in trouble left and right, you know, getting arrested,
Well, like DWI or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Comes
And
with the territory.
it definitely comes with the territory. And that was those were tough because one of the things that I've learned, and my body of work speaks for itself, that if you don't change anything, then you will continue to repeat a cycle. And that's exactly what I did over those 12 years. Like I would get arrested, consequences would be laid out for me. I would be on my best behavior until those consequences were lifted, and then go resort back
to the races,
to my old ways, because I didn't change anything. And I think, I always say this, consequence-driven change doesn't really ever last. If you're only changing something about yourself to get a girl back, get a car back, get your family back, get a job back, if that's the only motivation for change, once you get those things back, then your ego will run rampant again.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that I learned repeatedly, because I would get things back, or I'd wait for probation to end and then go back to, the races. And during this period of time, like, life is happening, bro. Like, my mom's getting sick, she starts dying. And I'm grateful that during her final years was during a period of recovery for me. I think I had, strung together around maybe 9-10 months that time. And, I'm grateful that, when she finally left this earth, I was sober, but I wouldn't even say that I was sober as much as I just wasn't drinking and I was clean. 'Cause I think, I think there's a difference between not drinking and then actually living his life of sobriety. I think and a lot of people don't differentiate, but there is a big differentiation between that.
Well, what's the love life like during your drinking and the 15 years of restaurants? What's going on within that gap?
The love life is early, like through high school, college. I had girlfriends and whatnot, but throughout this period of time, I had a partner. I had a partner for a really long time. Can I cut for a second? I don't really talk about my relationship, and the reason why is because she's very private. So, but I mean, I can like vaguely talk about it.
Yeah, right? just about.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how, like, before you got sober,
yeah,
how relationships were, and then now,
yeah,
like the big difference, because your mind is clearer and you're a different person.
Yeah.
Do you think your failed relationships were because of the drinking?
Well, I think my failed relationships was because I was just looking for people who would party with me. I was looking for someone else had the similar desires that I had. Like, let's party, let's go out, let's come back, and you know what I mean. Misery
loves company.
It's misery loves company, but those relationships were very transactional. I've had a partner for the past, I think we're going on 13 years. And, awesome. So when I met her, I was sober, and she's seen the cycle. She's stayed through the cycle. And a lot of things that I now understand is that when you compare, her to the past, it's those other girls would have just left me when things got bad. But the ability to kind of sustain through this relationship kind of shows the caliber of person that she is, the caliber of love that, we have, and also that my actions affect everybody around me. Mm-hmm. And when you have a disease, in a sense, when you are living with an active alcoholic, it's a disease of the family. And it's a disease of the family like nothing else, man. Everybody around you is affected. Everybody around you, it becomes traumatized. Everybody around you starts to question themselves. everyone around you is scared because they care about you and they are powerless over you changing. And that's the thing that, you know, I give my complete and utter gratitude to my partner, frankly, because I would have left, probably, if I'm being completely honest. And, you know, but, you know, there are gifts through this thing. But there are times that, you know, were rough.
So, restaurant went on for 15 years.
Yeah.
What was the breaking point?
The breaking point was, all right, so like, dude, at this point I had already, you know, been on probation. I did 4 months in jail for a DUI at one point.
4 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did, you know, like, yeah, it was crazy. You know, so at this point I did all of these things, and the cycle continued. And this, basically, I look at it, and when you're in recovery circles, I don't know if I want to put the jail part in. So you might have to cut that. But just because now I'm thinking about, like, yeah, all right. Anyway, but like, it's a cycle, man. And, you know, I look at it anytime, like, you continue to hurt yourself, like, you know, you hit a bottom, you know, and I hit a bottom. And I now understand the bottom didn't have to be as low as it was, you know, because I could have put the shovel down a long time ago. And, you know, in that bottom, it was a culmination of so many things. It was, you know, legal problems again. It was losing a job. It was totaling a car. But it was also compounded by the fact that a doctor told me that if I continued to live the life that I was living and drink the way that I was drinking, my pancreas would explode. I've never had a doctor say that to me. I don't really like doctors, frankly. I should probably go to them more often, but I don't. And, you know, I'm sitting there in the ER and I'm in a lot of pain. And that's the first time, you know, my mortality was kind of really tested. I mean, don't get me wrong. I put myself in a bunch of situations that I probably should have gotten hurt. But for a doctor to say that to you, I think that sunk in. And, you know, following that was probably like the darkest period of my life. It was very isolative. You know, I continued actually to drink for a couple more weeks after that. It's like a doctor tells you you're going to die if you continue drinking. I'm like, all right, well, let me have a drink and think about what I'm going to do. Like, that's literally what I did. And, you know, it was dark and lonely, man. And I ended up calling my best friend, Courtney. And she was in recovery. She had gotten sober. I think she was like 4 years. And she was working in the recovery space. And I just called her and told her, you know, this is it. I need to figure this out. And she flew me down to South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina. And it's one of my favorite places on this earth. I'm lucky to have a bunch of friends down there now who live sober lives. And I just started doing the work, man. And that's really what it came down to. It's doing the work. You know, it's not that I didn't know what to do. I had gone to meetings. I'd gone to, you know, rehab. I'd gone to IOPs. I had other folks now who I knew were living active, sober lives.
We all know right from wrong.
We all know. Also, yeah.
It's just implementing the right.
We all know right from wrong, bro. You know, like, come on. Like,
we all know.
Think it's funny. And we all know who to go to if we want to make a change.
We have access to everything.
Yeah.
All the information in the world we have access to. We all know everything, but it's just implementing the good stuff. The good stuff is boring.
Yeah.
The bad stuff is very fun. That's
true.
That's the fine line right there.
It's true, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, that began the journey, man, and it was really.
So the end of restauranting was you lost the last job and then you just never went back to another restaurant. That's how it worked.
Well, one of the things that I understood early on was, in order for me to change, I didn't have to just remove alcohol. I had to change everything about my life, and that included how I chose to make money. How I chose to make money. Granted, the money was great, but the environment was toxic for me. So I made a conscious I made a conscious decision. Fuck, man. To do the opposite of everything that I was doing prior. So it's like, obviously, chart my path in recovery, but that accompanied, all right, like, what am I going to do for work? I was working in an unhealthy environment that yielded an unhealthy schedule, unhealthy eating habits, unhealthy sleeping patterns. So now I'm going to lean into what's the opposite of that. I decided to work in fitness. So I ended up working for Equinox in the sales team. And that was probably one of the best jobs that I've ever had. And not really because of the work and the money, frankly.
It took you away from the devil.
It exposed me to healthy habits. It exposed me to, I'm watching, these pretty affluent folks, successful folks coming in each and every day at the same time, trying to get better. Consistency. I'm watching these folks eat clean and care about their bodies, so just self-care. I'm watching the way that they communicate. That was really important. I'm just, and I'm watching the way that, when I had conversations with them, how they prioritize family, how they prioritize, the small things. And you would think that, a lot of people give folks of affluence a bad rap, thinking that they're all conceited, thinking that they only care about themselves. But that's couldn't be further from the truth from the people who I met. But, those are three of the things that really I would observe, and I would ask questions, and I would network. And, that job probably had a role in just springboarding everything that I'm doing now, frankly, because
it kind of helped save your life.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't know what other job to do better than what you've been doing for the past 15 years. Might as well just find a restaurant job is what I know. It's so easy to plug myself in. I'll get hired. They see my resume. I'm definitely going to get that job. I'll just get that.
Yeah.
But instead, you struggled and said, I'm going to do something that I'd never done before.
Yeah.
And that literally was definitely part of saving your life.
Yeah. And it was scary, man, at first, And I'm also, I worked out on and off. But, like, you can work out on and off for, 10 years. But, if you're also, drinking a handle of vodka every 3 days, you're not going to see any fucking results, I'll tell you.
And you won't be consistent.
Yeah. So, then also, I started to get into a consistent workout regimen. One of the things that was really important was, like, let's just live like day one of my recovery journey was like, I need to start living like a normal human being. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it, bro.
Dumb it back down to
3 square meals,
to the needs.
go to bed at a decent time, make your bed.
Drink water.
And work out.
Simple.
And really, like, that's what it's all about. That's what it was about for me early on. Just like keeping those promises to yourself and building that confidence and getting into healthy patterns and routines. Because one of the things for me, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else who suffered from alcoholism, but I think they'd relate, is once you remove, when I removed drinking from my life, there's a tremendous void, because you know how much goddamn time I spent drinking? What am I going to do with that time? And for me, it was doing more productive things. Like, I introduced journaling into my life. The reading started to follow suit. All of those things.
Well, let's talk about the journaling and reading.
Yeah.
When you journaled, what were you writing? Just like about your day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, early on,
going to work, I woke up, and stuff like that?
Early on, yeah.
Okay. And then what's the reading like? Is this the first time you're actually reading for something you care about? Because before, I'm assuming you read for school or whatever the case, but now you're into self-development.
Yeah.
What are the books and what are you reading?
I mean, I early on it was really recovery-based books.
Okay.
I was, like the Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, like that, leaning on that for a very long time. Now, yeah, it's more like personal development books, like.
Anything that really stands out that helped you that you could, share with the viewers that might help them?
I mean, I love, why am I fucking, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's something I read every year.
Every year?
I read it once a year.
My man.
I mean, I think that's really just important to just like refresh your memory when it comes to just financial literacy, but also just how two starkly similar people can have very different approaches. And it's not because neither one doesn't care, but it's because of the vision of seeing the broader picture. You see that a lot now. I think that, because there's so much more opportunity for people to, there's so many different avenues that people can go when it comes to wealth and how to build it. But then there's also the advice that you get from, I'll tell you from my boomer dad, where he's cool with his like 8%, portfolio growth and doesn't want to make any risky moves. I email him different opportunities all the time where, he has that opportunity. But like, I just like how, it's important to really, diagnose different, like look at different perspectives when it comes to money. And that's a really important book I think everybody should read. Frankly.
I agree. That I have a list of 13 books that I recommend people. That's definitely part of that list. That's a really good book.
What's your list?
I don't have it memorized. I have it listed, but number one is the 4 Agreements.
Okay.
Yeah. Mastery is in there. Mastery of Love is in there. The 48 Laws of Power is in there. Karma by Sadhguru is in there. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but really, really good self-development books. I started my self-development journey in 2018. And it's funny, what the catalyst to that was my doctor telling me my liver was because I was drinking too heavy.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I relate to that story with the doctor because some people get the news from the doctor and not change.
Yeah.
But the average person, when they get something that serious, news that serious, that's what helps people change.
Yeah.
Usually your parent telling you don't do that, your friends telling you don't do that, your boss telling you don't do that, in one ear and out the other. But a doctor's telling you your health is at risk, that's usually what helps people change any bad habit. Usually. But there's people out there that muscle through anything and don't care.
Well, the thing, you know why, dude? And this is what I'm going to tell you. For me, I understand that ego is my Achilles heel. All right? So I look at my life before recovery where it was me. I was a taker. What can you do for me? I was transactional. I was chasing instant gratification. And that's all ego, man.
Yeah.
Now in this second chapter of my life, I understand how toxic ego is for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I say this a lot, that this, hopefully it's a full half, the second half of my life, I really need to lean into committing it to giving back. Because I understand now, through exploring conversations about purpose with my podcast, when I ask people what gives them purpose, it's always about how they're affecting others positively, what they're giving back, how they're using their position, whether it's a financial position, whether it's a position of influence, whether it's in whatever position they have, how are they using it to instill good within the people they can directly affect. And that's what they always say is what makes them feel like they're living purposefully. And for me, that's really, really important. I want to go back to the books thing, because one book that really changed my life is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, bro.
I read that one.
That's one of my favorite books. And the reason why is, for me, I need to understand that not everything... I don't need to care about everything, bro.
Absolutely.
Because if I care about something and I'm giving it energy and I have no control over it, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting whatever emotional capital that I have. I'm wasting whatever mental capital that I have. And I think a lot of times when I find myself caring about so many things at once, I lose focus on my mission. And that book changed my life, man. Because Mark Manson, bro, and it's hilarious. It's funny. I like funny books. And it speaks my like raw language. That's kind of how like the way he writes it. But stop caring about everything, bro.
Absolutely. You know about Stoicism? One of my favorite books, which is on my list too, is The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
Stoicism is the same thing we were talking about, where it's like, don't worry about the things you have no control over.
Yeah.
It's literally a waste of your time, waste of your energy, a waste of everything.
Yeah.
You have no control over it. It's going to happen. Just let it happen. Don't stress it. Don't worry about it. You have no control over it, let it go.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's so funny that you say that because obviously that's the essence of the Serenity Prayer, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and if you really think about it, the only thing you have control over is you.
That's it.
And I just thought I was working on a project, and I love working with different people, but when the person I was working with wanted to control everyone. And for me, it's so outside of like how I have trained myself to understand that I can't change how this person thinks or acts or reacts, whatever. I can't change the timing of when they complete an action item. I just can't. But what I can control is, my role within a project. I can control, the way I regulate my emotions. I think that's really important. And, sometimes like it's funny when you work on yourself, you're able to see that there's a lot of people out there who are in pain or living in fear or anger, and it's really more identifying. Really, all you can do is pray for them, because if you try to pray for them and lead by example and hope that they come to you, and then you have an opportunity to serve them.
That's it, because you can't tell somebody to change.
No, dude, you know how many people
like
try
I was
to tell me
saying
to
earlier.
change?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, usually a doctor, but a friend, family, whatever, bro.
Yeah, it's funny because so many people throughout my life tried different things to lead me to live a different life, but it wasn't until I hit that dark moment and I made a decision to lean into a recovery, frankly.
Absolutely.
And it's not that I didn't know I needed it. You know what I mean?
We all know right from wrong.
It's not that I know I didn't need it. I want to talk about that, man, because that's so valuable. Like I was having this conversation with a friend, and he was at a fork in the road, and I just blatantly asked him, like, what in your gut do you think is the right decision? And I think that's really, really important, that oftentimes we ignore our gut.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say 99% of the time your gut's right. If you listen to it, man, like the one things that we as humans are so just infamous for is just ignoring obvious red flags. And usually the reason why we ignore those red flags is because we're chasing something, we want instant gratification, or we want to change someone. And those three things are never a recipe for us to get the fulfillment that we want out of a situation. And I think it's because it's ego. It's always ego, bro.
Absolutely ego.
Yeah.
I talk about the ego a lot.
Really?
It's a powerful thing. The ego lives in the future and in the past, never in the moment. That's why meditation is so powerful.
Yeah.
Meditation is the best thing any human can do, because it puts you in the moment, and the only thing that matters in the entire world is this moment.
Yeah.
Being appreciative that we woke up. We started this podcast at 9 a.m. We woke up. Our legs work. Our heart is beating. Our blood's flowing. We're here speaking. Our vocal cords. Everything's working fine. You have to appreciate the moment. This conversation is the moment. That's one of the reasons I love podcasting. We're not thinking about the past or the future right now. We're talking about right now. This conversation. Bouncing ideas off of each other.
Yeah.
The ego doesn't live in the moment. The ego lives in the future and in the past. I want that. I want to look like that. I want people to think of me like that. I want people to view me like that. I hate that happened. I wish I could have changed that. It's all the ego. It doesn't exist. The future and the past is not real. It doesn't exist. It happened. It's done. It never happened again. The future hasn't happened yet, but right now we can control.
Yeah, I love how you talked about the meditation, and spirituality is a huge component of not only my recovery, but just the way that I live my life.
Let's
and
talk about
leaning
that, yeah.
into my relationship with God, and leaning into just being still, frankly, and you being in these moments that you just spoke about. And for me, you're right. When you're in these moments, ego isn't there. I mean, ego stands for easing God out.
Oh, I never heard that one.
It does, and when you're working with ego, you're not letting God use his vision for you. And I think that's something that is really, really powerful, man, because for me, I had to acknowledge that. And I have to do that sometimes on a daily basis. Like, is this me wanting to impose my will onto a situation? Because what's going to happen if I do impose my will onto a situation and it's a mess? Is it my fault? Because I know I'm not going to accept blame, you know? Or what happens if I do it and anytime I impose my own will on a situation rather than trusting the process, trusting my gut, and just going with what feels right and I know is right, that's God working through me, you know? And I think you can always sense when it's like, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's and like the driving force is ego, you know? For me, like I need to you know, remain spiritually grounded, you know, throughout my day. And there are spiritual checkpoints that I have throughout the day when I feel like I'm either getting, you know, overwhelmed, when I feel any peak emotion, whether it's a positive emotion or a negative emotion. My goal is always to stay centered.
That's the goal.
There are certain tools that I use to stay centered throughout the day. Breathing has been the number one thing because you could do it whenever. You don't need anything for it. You can do it in the car. You can do it in the office. You can do it in a podcast studio. You can do it wherever. You can take those deep breaths. You can clear your mind. That's my number one.
Absolutely.
The meditation is huge.
Absolutely.
You know, I wake up every morning and I meditate.
Good.
I used to do it laying in my bed, and then my chiropractor said that I need to use this thing on my neck, so I have to lay on it, and I do it on that, and it's actually cool. And I do it on my my floor, and I get my spine. I got my spine straightened out for a little bit, and then it eases me, and I breathe, and I do about 20 minutes of meditation every morning.
Amazing.
You know, and it's like the best way to start your day. No devices, nothing.
Absolutely.
And it just helps me serve my purpose in a way that I probably wouldn't be able to if I wasn't, like I previously lived, like completely unconscious of any, you know, spiritual grounding.
Same, yeah. When I was drinking and partying, and before my doctor told me about my liver, I didn't believe in religion. I didn't believe in God. I didn't even know self-development was a thing.
Yeah.
I never heard those two words put together before. My life was just chaos. Mm-hmm. And then once I opened my mind to all that, it was like the bright light.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you're supposed to live.
Yeah. Well, the thing is you can tell who is leaning into being the best version of themselves on a daily basis. Absolutely. And who isn't.
Just by the way they speak and their actions.
Just their aura, man.
Absolutely.
Just by the aura. You could tell when someone's spiritually centered.
Absolutely.
You could tell when they have this aura, bro. I can't even explain it.
I know what you mean.
But, you know, I can spot it now, and because our energies just click.
Absolutely.
And I can spot when someone's energy doesn't click with me. And I'll be honest, it is uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
It is very uncomfortable.
I know what you mean.
You know, like when you're around an energy that is like majorly narcissistic or super anxious.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things I always, you know, I never was an anxious person, ever. You know, never. I don't know why. Anxiety for me makes me very uncomfortable because I always... and maybe it's now because I've done the work and I've trained myself, but when someone's anxious about something, it's usually fear of something that's never going to materialize.
Yeah, it's the future that might never happen.
Yeah. I just think that like people spend a lot of time worrying about all these different outcomes that they close themselves off to an even greater outcome that God wants to actually deliver them.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So like for me, it's really comes from just, you know, approaching situations with no expectations and being open to any gift that comes my way. Because
we don't control anything.
Yeah.
We have to be open. If you're not open to what's going to happen, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen without you knowing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, friends. You had friends when you were drinking. Those same friends, are you still friends with them? Is the relationship different that you have to cut friends off? Because when you are now this self-development journey, spirituality, not drinking, doing better for yourself, you still have those friends.
Yeah.
How did that work out? How was that transition?
Well, friends, I have two best friends, Joey and Stevie, that have been with me since like middle school.
Nice.
Right. I love them. They're my brothers. Joe, Steve, Mickey, like those three, I love them, bro. They're brothers. They're not friends, they're brothers, right? I've had friends of all different seasons. I've had many different seasons in my life, man. And have you ever seen that I think it was Tyler Perry, and he's making the speech and he's talking about a rocket ship and how, people are like those blasters on a rocket ship, and as you continue to elevate, they organically fall off. And as you reach these other levels, they organically fall off. And that's what's happened. At the end of the day, the people who become your friends are a product of the environments you're seeking.
Absolutely.
So if I am seeking to be at a bar stool every night, those will be my friends, and they'll be the best of friends, and we'll take some shots, and we'll maybe talk about family, but probably not, and we'll have great times, and then we'll part ways, and then we'll run it back the next day. And, do I value those folks as human beings? Yeah. Like I made many friends, but the friends that I have now are very different.
Absolutely.
Because I look for different qualities in friends. I'm looking for, to have conversations like this. I'm looking to see where we can support each other in our businesses. I'm looking to see, honestly, who likes sushi. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're serious about that.
Yeah, I love sushi. Like me and my boy Rob, we go on these sushi lunches. And we go to this place called Sushi X in Stamford. It's bottomless sushi. It's great. If anybody ever is in Stamford, it's bottomless sushi. We sit there, and it's all about the conversations we're having. I could sit on a bar stool and talk about how bad the Giants are for forever, if you'd like. But is it really going to make me grow? No. Me and Rob are talking about how can we help each other's businesses. You're doing this on social media. Why are you doing this? And how is it producing X outcome? The conversations are different. So, the friend group is going to change because my interests have evolved.
Absolutely.
I want to grow. So the friends I'm attracting now also want to grow.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's organic. It's not like I had to go back, because that's something a lot of people fear when they're making big changes. Oh my God, like I have to go to my friends and say like, I can no longer hang out with you. No, you fucking don't. You do you. You want to grow. Lean into you. You'll attract who is going to help you grow. And these folks, maybe they'll call you, but those phone calls will slowly dissipate, and you'll see them in the gas station. You'll say, "What's up? Oh, I see you're doing this." All of the folks who see me now, they're so proud of me, man.
Good.
And it means so much that they are. And, some of them reach out and they're like, I want to do, like, can you help me? And that is what the gift that I get to do now, where it's like they're asking me for advice. It's like, shit, they were bailing me out of jail. Well, not really. They weren't. None of them did, actually. Yeah, but
it sounded good, though.
None of them did. Only Steve did.
My man.
But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because, at the end of the day, those aren't friends that I would call if I was in jail. But the friends that I have now, if I got into trouble, they'd call me an asshole, but they'd come get me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to mention about the ego. I used to, for the past few years, I've been saying, kill your ego. I've been promoting that. Kill your ego, kill your ego, kill your ego. And then recently, another friend that's on the same mindset as me, we're having a big conversation about ego and ego and ego. And at the end of the conversation, I came to the realization that we all have an ego. We all will have an ego, no matter what. We cannot kill it. So now I'm saying tame your ego, because we need an ego a little bit in reference to, let's say we want to start eating better because we want to look better, or just live longer, or just live a healthy life. That is the ego. Yeah. Thinking about my future self, that doesn't even exist. That is the ego, but that's a good way of using the ego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like tame your ego. Use it in the right way. Don't let it loose. Well, keep it on the chain.
It's like have a healthy ego.
That's what it is.
It's okay to like
Have good goals.
Have
Because
good goals.
having goals of the future is the ego. But have those good goals, that's good ego.
Yeah, I think when it's ego rooted in just like self-discipline and self-belief and self-trust, it's a different type of ego as opposed to an ego that's
I need a belly so people can see me.
In entitlement.
Exactly.
And that's where you can contrast the two. Because there is a level of confidence that you need to walk into a room if you're trying to get something done.
Absolutely.
And that's important. So I completely agree.
Absolutely.
You know, for me, you know, I'm able to tame the ego because I don't even know who said this, but, you know, they're being interviewed and they were like, you know, what do you think is a superpower? And the person said emotional regulation. And that, I saw that like probably like 3 months into sobriety, bro. You know, like it's funny because, you know, our brains and our phones are both algorithms. The more we feed our brain positive, you know, positive energy, positive, you know, even if it's digital content, you know, just like Instagram, if we continue to feed positive messaging into our head, we reprogram the way we think. And the same thing happened obviously on Instagram. It's like now I'm seeking out like motivation. I'm seeking out recovery. So my Instagram algorithm changed from like cars and, you know, girls and whatever the fuck I was looking at. And now it's all just like motivational quotes and, you know, you popping up and just empowering growth. And it's the same thing with our brain. But
no, that's a good point because I did the same thing when I started my self-development journey. I unfollowed all the meme pages, all the stupidity, like pages where they just post fights or just stupid stuff, negative stuff. I literally unfollowed all of that, and I actively started following the positive stuff. People that are doing great in life, not just celebrities, people that are known for doing great stuff. Like you know, Grant Cardone and just people that are speaking and always preaching the good thing to do. I just started following all of that stuff. And you're right. It's what you consume is who you become.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny because and that's where I, you know, like that emotional regulation thing. That's something that I saw when, you know, like my algorithm was recalibrating, and that stuck out. That and I think it was Admiral Petraeus at UT when he was like, "Make your bed, change your life." It was his University of Texas commencement speech. Those two things. No, it's make your bed and change the world. That's like one of the coolest speeches ever. And he's talking about like why these little tasks in the military are so important.
First thing in the morning, do something you don't want to do.
Do something you don't want to do. And make a habit of it. That's the thing. Make a habit of it. And I've made my bed ever since. And it's like a benchmark of my morning. And I look forward to it every morning.
You look forward
because
to
I'm thanking God for getting up. I'm thanking God for the opportunity to make my bed, frankly.
Absolutely.
You know, but the emotional regulation piece is important because for me, emotional regulation takes on a very important role in my life because if I get too high and get too low, let's not forget my default was alcohol. And it's survival for me. I need to regulate my emotions because, you know, we like to say that, you know, we only have this day, right? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? You live one day at a time in this game. And tomorrow, you know, because I get that question all the time. People are like, are you not going to drink forever? And I'm like, I know I'm not going to drink now. I can't talk about what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what's going to happen in the future because my default is to drink. You know, it's more upset. It's more shocking when an active alcoholic or addict is not doing what they're doing. It's true. You know?
Yeah.
So when people ask me that, I kind of laugh because, you know, it's almost like people who aren't won't ever fully understand. Just like men won't fully understand what it's like to have a baby. It's the same thing. But like, I love that question, but it's also how I live my life where it's like, I don't get too high, I don't get too low, because those extreme highs and those extreme lows in the past have led me down a very dark path, and it started with one drink. So, you know, so emotional regulation, I can't I can't talk enough about it, bro.
I love that. Emotions are everything. Let's get back to the timeline. So,
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love how deep we got on ego and all that good stuff. So, we left off at the gym, Equinox.
Yeah.
So you're there. You're changing everything now.
Yeah.
Let's pick up from there. So what's the next step after
Yeah,
Equinox?
it's
Or
funny.
during?
So I worked like roughly 2 years there, right? Maybe a little less, frankly. And I'm observing all these people. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. I'm asking them questions. I'm getting curious about the decisions they make in their businesses. I'm just really, really, really getting curious. I'm working out alongside them, so developing those type of relationships. And that's when I was like, all right, I knew Equinox wouldn't be the end all be all, right? And so I met a lot of people, and one of the things that they would tell me when I asked them, this is a question I always ask during the sales process: what's the thing that's most important to you that you wish you could be doing more of? Because that's a question I would ask them when I was trying to sell them training. They'll be like, all right, well, you can get these results in an hour, 3 hours a week. And, that's how I would close them on training. And they'd be like, and they'd always say, I am on the board of this nonprofit. I work with this nonprofit. I wish I could be doing more there. So that's when nonprofits really came into my radar, right? Because I'd already made a commitment that, this chapter of my life is going to be dedicated towards giving. So I kind of started to ask more about nonprofits, talking to different executive directors, for organizations throughout like the Greenwich, Stanford, Fairfield County community, and started working with them, and really it was more like back end. I would help them organize donor lists. It was clerical work. It was understanding the different fundraising apparatus that they would incorporate, both digitally and in-person events. And I was lucky enough to meet with Ashley Radone, and she and her husband Carlos Radone, and they're awesome. They would end up launching their own foundation, and I helped them with that, and I helped them with their inaugural gala, and really got to see the inner workings of a nonprofit from the very start to its growth. And I was lucky to be a part of their their first year, and after that I was like, all right, like I like working with nonprofits. I worked on a couple other gala boards. I did some consulting work for a couple other ones. I was like, I like these nonprofits, but to keep it real with you, nonprofits have smaller budgets. And I was a young entrepreneur, and not young. I was not young. I was a new entrepreneur, and I needed to kind of lean more into a way where I could make money, frankly. So I leaned more into the events. And listen, don't get me wrong. I love nonprofits, and I love attaching nonprofits to any events that I do. Because it's important to always partner with a good cause. But working directly for a nonprofit in that early stage of business wasn't helping me grow my business. So I leaned into events, and I just started doing more private events. I started doing brand activations. And
what's that?
Like partnering with luxury brands.
Okay.
And bringing other brands into the fold of an event, so that...
Give me an example. I'm not too sure what
So
you
I
mean.
did an event with Lamborghini last May, right? So
Nice.
Lamborghini was the host, and then I invited like a private equity group to sponsor our luxury travel, luxury real estate, and invited them all to bring their VIP clients. So they each had like a 20-person guest list, and I invited them to come to the event. So that aligned well, so that Lamborghini obviously invited like 20 of their VIP clients. And hopefully, business relationships and long-term business relationships were made from that event. And because oftentimes we go to these networking events and we meet a lot of people, but how many are you realistically going to do business with? It's nice to meet you, but do you align with my brand? Do you align with like my mission? And do you align with my price point? And I found that when you really curate the room and the guest list and put these people who align really well together, then the high likelihood of them doing business and actually converting is better. And also, the demographic that I was really targeting, they're super conscious of their time, and that's something I learned through working with this nonprofit. We had this lunch meeting, and we have a bunch of C-suite executives around the table, a owner of a medical practice, and I remember sitting next to someone towards the end. And she was like, wow, that was like a $15,000 lunch. And I looked at her. I was like, we're sitting in this woman's kitchen. What are you talking about? And she was like, well, he's a C-suite accountant for, a Fortune 500 company. That's about $2,000 worth of billing hours right there. She's the legal counsel for, XYZ Corporation. That's another $5,000 worth of billable hours right there. So for me, understanding that was such a game changer, understanding that this is how people look at their time.
Value.
Yeah. $15,000 lunch. I was like, that was decent chicken. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not the food.
Yeah. It's the time she was talking about. We sat there for 2 hours. And that changed the game for me on how, to approach this demographic. Like, be quick. Communicate very directly. Don't waste their time. And, I think that's something that I, do with my own time now, where it's just like, even the way that we booked this, bro. I was like, when do you want to do this? When do you want to do this? Boom, boom, done. Because I don't want to go back and forth for 3 days figuring it out. Like, let's just go. I got here on time.
If it takes 3 days, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's like, when's your next availability?
Yeah.
This is my next availability. Are you available? Yes.
Yeah.
Lock it in. What time? Okay. Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
And we did the same with mine. Because I'm just like, let's get shit done mode, bro.
That's it.
Get shit done mode. Let's just get shit done.
People that don't get shit done, they bullshit a few days. I'll get back to you. Those are the people that don't get shit done. People that get shit done is yes, no, black, white, when, what time, be there. It's on my calendar. Done.
Well, the people, the fastest way to get things done is to make quick decisions and to make quick decisions. So the faster, the less time you spend on making a decision, the faster you can get a positive result. I'm not saying rush through this big decisions. Like, no, like make quick decisions based on all of the information, but don't procrastinate with small decisions. And when you procrastinate with small decisions, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your bottom line, you're hurting, any impact that you can have.
Absolutely.
Because that's what my mission's all about, man. How many people can I impact positively? How many people can I reach who were either in a place that I once was, or can align with an emotional setback that I once had, and can hear something I say, look at a piece of content that I put out, and say, wow, like, I can relate to that. I want to reach out to him, and hopefully we can work together and uplift you. That's all I care about. So and there's ways to go about it, man. And I try to move fast and smart.
Absolutely. So you start doing events.
Yeah.
Is this when ARV comes in?
ARV, that's the events company. So yeah.
Okay, so you started ARV first, or you started doing events?
I started ARV, bro. I started ARV like while I was working at Equinox, and I remember like I was recording videos in my office, and I was pissing off management. It was bad, dude. I started doing that. I hosted a big event there, like during that period of time. That
at Equinox, you hosted an event?
No, I did do an event at Equinox, but then I did another event at the Bruce Museum in Greenwich, and it was weird because I was promoting it while I was working there, and it was rubbing people the wrong way. And in hindsight, I could have done a lot better with communication and being more transparent. And to that, I've owned and
you learned.
I learned. Yeah, I learned. But and at the end of the day, it also allowed me to do something that I feared, which was letting go of the security of having that corporate job and just go jumping full in.
So ARV, boutique event and strategy consulting firm.
Yeah.
What is the strategy and consulting firm? What's that part of it?
So, I help people build out their vision. Like I help them build out sponsorships. I sell the sponsorships. I align the different brands. I do the vendor coordination. I do everything.
Okay.
I do everything. If it is a nonprofit, incorporating the fundraising apparatus, I track the sales, I track donations, I monitor all the data, everything. I can do the pre and post marketing. I actually have a great partner in that. I wouldn't say partner. She partners with me on every single one of my events. Her name's Rachel Lacken. She's amazing. She does all of the social media marketing for the events, any of the promotion. Like, she's great. She actually manages my business Instagram, not my current one, but I'm probably gonna expand and have her like manage everything, frankly. But yeah, it's like people. I think the one misconception, people want to just have an event. You know how many conversations I've had? Sorry, I don't know why I put my brim so far. Holy shit. So what? Dude, it just went low for a second. People come to me all the time and they're like, I want to do an event. I'm like, all right, like, what's your budget? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, tell me your vision.
Exactly.
And
how many people?
So
what do you want there? Who do you want there?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. You know the details.
Yeah, and I look at them and I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be, X amount of dollars. Like, it's funny because we go to so many events, we take for granted what actually happens on the back end. There's money involved. Like, these events don't.
Got to rent the space one.
Yeah. I love when, people come and like, where are you gonna have it? Like, I don't know. Like, all right, well, do you need me to find you a venue? Okay. What's your budget on a venue? I don't know. And I'm like, all right. And,
how many people you need? Then we can start
fine.
there. You need parking. How many people you need? What space?
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. And I'm like, all right, I can handle it for you. And I walk them through it. And I think once you have the opportunity to walk through the entire process with me, you'll have a greater appreciation of what goes on to it. So like, my boy Tony, like he hosts these events, bro. Like, I give him the utmost credit for it because I know how much goes into the planning of it. And he's got a good thing now where it's like he's got a system, he's got vendors that he can just like plug and play, like, and it's great. But like, even when you have that, it's still a ton of work. The promotion, the events that I do are higher ticket. So, at the end of the day, like, a $30 event, you could probably get away with marketing on social media. But a, say, $100, $150 ticket and higher, like, you have to pick up the phone. You have to call people and tell them that you would love for them to be at your event, that their presence will be missed if they are not there. You need to make them feel special so that they put their credit card down and buy a ticket. That's something that, if you don't do that, don't expect the people to just come to your event because you post it on social media and you continue to plug in on your story. Because like you see how you scroll?
Absolutely.
1 second, boom. 1 second, boom. No one's reading that shit. You need to call them.
Absolutely.
You need to make people feel important and loved, and that their presence matters to you. And that's what I try to communicate with any event. Absolutely. The best is when you format it where the sponsors have a guest list and they're responsible for filling in the ticket spots. That's what I love to do. Because the burden of actually filling the room falls on the sponsors and not me. And I don't want to say burden, but they get to really...
It's work.
They get to handpick who they want in their room. And that's how you really, really build out a curated room of just... And awesome things tend to happen in those rooms.
Absolutely. What does ARV stand for?
Adam Vohra.
What is it?
Adam Vohra.
What is that?
My name.
Oh, really? Oh! You said it so fast. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Nice. Perfect. Okay.
This guy.
I love it.
This shit.
I'm like, who's that? Who's that guy?
Yeah. It's like wearing him.
Same guy you've been talking for over an hour, bro.
Oh, yeah.
The core shift.
So the core shift method is my coaching program.
Okay.
And I soft launched it, frankly. I've been working with 6 clients now, and I work with them privately. And it's really about, for me, I get so much out of it because I'm able to help people just overcome things that they didn't think were previously holding them back, using the tools that I've accumulated through my recovery journey, but tools that I've also accumulated through a coaching certification that I got from CCAR in Bridgeport, Connecticut. which is really leans into substance abuse coaching, but it's really just internal work. I use a lot of tools in order for me to kind of overcome certain demons, and I help others do that too. You know, and it really starts with, you know, kind of just coming to terms with where you're weak, owning that, and then you really need to do the repair work. And through that, you're able to evolve. And I walk them through, it's either 6 months or a year. I would be finishing my first year with my first client in January, which is when I really want to launch. I just wanted to make sure that, not make sure, but I wanted to go through the entire process with someone.
Go through the whole year.
You know, and so it's something I've been doing quietly, and I'm excited to promote in 2026 and open it up and take on maybe a dozen more clients. It's not something that I don't want to take on too many, because I wouldn't be able to personally really walk them through in the way that I want. I know a lot of coaching businesses like to scale and grow. You know, for me, it's more about really connecting with a client, really working with them one-on-one. If they're local, meeting with them in person if I can, and truly looking under the hood for them.
Awesome. Yeah. ARV came first and then the podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the no pun intended? What was the purpose of the podcast?
The purpose of Finding Purpose was I jumped into public speaking shortly after I launched a business. My friend Rob, he was actually a trainer at Equinox, and he was involved with this community called Warm Heart Life, led by Brandon Godoris. Brandon Godoris runs this public speaking schools, you know, throughout the country. And Rob had kept encouraging me to do one. So I finally bit, and there's one in Chicago. And I was like, all right, like, I'll go out to Chicago. I'd never been. And I was like, worst comes to worst, this shit sucks. I'm going to go just see the city.
Yeah, get some pizza.
It's like, yeah, you know. Yeah, I like New York pizza. But it was great, man, because it was the first time I ever really spoke about my story. Talked about the grief of losing my mom. Talked about losing a best friend to suicide. Talked about my recovery. Talked about the adoption. And I went up there and I did like a 5-6 minute keynote. And I got back to my chair, and it's probably a room full, like about 15, 20 people. And the feedback I got was so empowering, bro. Like, that was so beautiful. Like, I was almost in tears. I can't really, you know, when you get that feedback, you know, for years I attributed a lot of shame to my story. Shame and guilt and ugliness. But when I put it out there, that's not what I was met with. And so it allowed me to detach the shame from my story and understand that my story can empower others. So when I did the podcast, it was I wanted to provide a safe space for other people to do the same thing. And I wanted to lean into conversations like the ones that we're having now, because they're so important when it comes to not only the person who is sitting in the opposite chair, but for me, I learn a lot. And if I'm learning a lot, then I know for damn sure my audience is.
100%.
And hopefully that person is walking away, and I've already said this a couple of times, is where I've never said this on a podcast before. You know, like, I love when people say that, because that means I'm doing my job as a host in making them feel safe to share some moments in their life that now they're able to detach shame from.
Absolutely. I love it. Is there anything else that I didn't touch on that we should be touching on?
No, man, I think we hit everything. I think that we were pretty thorough. Yeah.
I'm glad. I didn't want to leave any stone unturned.
No, this is great, man. This is great.
Right,
I'm super grateful for the time.
So let's finish strong. If you could let the people know where they could find you.
Yeah.
Anything you have coming up that you want them to tune into, and any last words.
What's going on, guys? My name is Adam Vohra. I'm super grateful to Franjez for having me. You can reach me at my Instagram at Adam Vohra _. You can also go to my website, www.adamvohra.com. And, definitely follow my podcast as well. Follow Franjez's podcast. I'm going to plug him also. In addition, if you are in the New York metro area, Greenwich, Connecticut, or Darien, New Canaan, I do work for Upper Westchester Lifestyle Magazine. If you are looking to advertise or partner, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you there. But yeah, www.adamvohra.com. Got some exciting things coming up. It's constantly being updated. So looking forward to connect with as many of you as I can. Or you can follow me on Instagram at @AdamVohra_.
Awesome.
Is that good?
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure.
This is great.
Yeah, it was.
Shout out to the cops.
Shout out to the
cops for the couple breaks we got.
And if you made it this far, shout out to you. Thank everybody for watching. Peace and love.